Hey everyone, so I'm still running my campaign, yes, my GoFundMe campaign, even though I'm in the middle of packing, which is a major job. And guess what? I'm doing it all on my own. But one of the things that I wanted to mention was, well, this. Um, I've been homeless before, and part of the challenge psychologically of even just getting through this period has been about all of that stuff kind of being triggered, I guess. Like the knowledge that many of us are just 1 month away from eviction or not being able to pay the rent. I'm really thankful to those who've contributed to the campaign so far, but I just wanted to make a couple of points. Yes, I have a full-time job, but I've also been supporting someone who's out of work for a number of years and has health issues. I actually have a casual job as well. It doesn't pay that great, but I do it because I do it from my heart to support survivors. Um, I have had privileges in the last while, and I've paid other people's rent. I've had people stay with me for years as well when they were out of work without asking for a penny. This is not virtue signalling, it's just me being upfront and honest that there are times in life where I got to get a bit back as well. Particularly for those people out there that, yeah, I have been there financially and psychologically to support. Um, it's not something that I expect necessarily from even them or a range of people, but you know, this is something people in Sydney can relate to. Um, I'm lucky to have 1,000 or 2,000 at the end of a rent payment period. I don't have assets. I haven't been able to build that basis. I've been in a long distance relationship for years. Of course, I take responsibility for my things, but getting evicted at a time where you're basically behind the eight ball is tough. If this had happened, the sale of the property, which was not my issue, it's a deceased estate, so they just went ahead and sold it without advising more than 30 days in advance, and they use a law to assure that I'm out. I have found a new place, but I've still got removalist fees. I've still got exit clean, which is really expensive, otherwise I won't get my bond back. So some of you met me at a different chapter of my life, yeah, during that period where I was in constant housing crisis as a young queer person. I was in what Puerto Rican scholars call sexile, yeah, for being a family whistleblower at the time around abuse, and also someone who was sexually other or otherized, and not seen as compatible within the logics of heteronormativity, I guess, to put a more analytical lens on it. But I just wanted to be able to be safe and be me, and it took me years to get to the point, years of actually not having support. For example, no mainstream services could deal with the fact that I came from a history of SA, that that's what I'd experienced, as well as family violence. The loss of a brother, really quite difficult survival tactics, some of which, to be honest, have served me because I have a high threshold, and others relate psychologically to the things that were never grieved over, mourned, responded to, justice not served. Most of my life, in my early life, I lived in absolute instability. So get this, the first 10 years of my existence, we shifted 9 times, and my father was also bankrupt and in debt. There's so much more I could say, but the crux of it is that it's more than meets the eye. It's more than meets the eye. I've paid for people's mothers' medical bills. I've always believed in collective life. Now, what gets called personal responsibilities can sometimes be, to be blatantly honest, a form of social indifference and the attribution of your life world and how you've been able to have support and manage onto other people who don't have the same degrees of social advantage historically. This has got a long curve, not just in the present. So many of us who are otherized in different ways, whether racially or in terms of our status as trans and queer people from working class background at that kind of intersection, we don't have the supports. We don't have a family home. We don't have a range of things, even confidence, to be able to really assure ourselves that the world is safe for us. Yeah? I've been able to create some of those structures, but because I'm supporting so many other people, I often don't even have the financial resources. And that's the whole point of actually asking for a little bit of, chipping in from people who I've formed relationships, not necessarily financial, but collegial, community along the way. So it's a long way of putting it, but if you can find it in your heart to just chip in a little bit, please do. It would really help. And most of my life I've had to do things on my own. I come from a family background that's not wealthy. I didn't inherit anything. There's never been a family home. So it's not just me. I come from a context of basically 7 kids and a single mom. And whilst it might seem like ancient history to bring that up, a lot of stuff spiraled, especially after my departure from that environment, because my sexual identity / sexuality was not seen as acceptable in the early years. And I lived on the street. Someone's trying to call me, but I'll have to get back to them. So the crux of it is that I had to do it all on my own, and I get exhausted as well. I feel like I'm doing this move on my own. I barely have the financial wherewithal, but I'd really appreciate any contribution you could make. And I could cook for you. I'm quite a good cook. One form of return. Thank you for listening to me, and all the best in your world and in this world.